Did you go to
Hi,
Iglesia?
son. Hi,
I'm
son. We
how
already
are you?
discussed the book. It was good.
Like the book?
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you get a haircut, Ruben?
I got a haircut, yeah.
Very good. Excellent. We haven't done
Um,
this in about 6 weeks, Mom. We've been
Really?
playing hooky. Yeah. One of us had surgery. So
Uh,
yeah. So we're back though. We're back.
Welcome everybody to the show. Today we have a special guest, first of all, our mother, Cristina Valdez. She's back. How are you, Mom?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to see you, Ruben and Jacob. It's always a pleasure to do this with you guys. I'm excited.
Thanks, Mom.
Very good. We are too, and we're happy to be here to talk books. And well, how this started, this particular book is you had asked, you see, you're in a reading group, a
A
book
book
club,
club. Book club.
book club. And so you had asked, we had talked about books, and you said, what should I read? What should we read next? Sometimes you ask me, and so, it's hard to say because everybody's got different tastes. But I was just thinking and thinking, and I just responded with one of my favorite books, which is Ask the Dust by John Fante. So we're talking, and we thought we'd include Jake in it. We asked Jake to read it. You read it, Mom. I
I
think
did.
you're gonna share it with your book club. And I don't know how many times I've read this book. So I'm gonna ask you your impressions about the book. And let me just say that I love this book. I've always loved it. I must have read it three times before, maybe two or three times. This might be my fourth time. And I love it more than ever. I got something this time that I never got before. So we could say, first of all, I'll let you talk about it, Mom, but I will say, first of all, there's this idea of books about LA. So there's several books, novels about LA. People talk about Day of the Locust. I forget his name who wrote it. And there's several other, books about LA. To me, this is quintessential Los Angeles, written in 1939 by John Fante. You read it and you feel it just breathes Los Angeles, especially at that time. That's part of why I like it. Reading it this time, I had a completely different thought about it. And I don't even want to tell you what I think it's about. We do know it's about LA. It's about a writer living in LA, trying to make it. Um, and I have some thoughts, some passages that are great. It's about a woman that he falls for. He's an Italian American writer. John Fante is, but also his character Arturo Bandini is an Italian American writer. Falls for a Mexican American in LA. She's a bartender. And you cannot help but appreciate who this character is. He is somebody you never forget. He's unforgettable. Camila Lopez is unforgettable. Even his not his roommate, but his floor mate in this apartment is unforgettable. And the guy who just drinks all the time.
Yeah,
And so Helgath, heck, I forget his name.
I think that's right.
Um,
Um, Before I say my thoughts about theme, what are your initial thoughts, Mom, about the book? Did you like it, first of all?
I did like it. Halfrick, his neighbor was Halfrick.
Oh,
Um, I did like it. I like the way that he writes. He draws you in. And also, it was kind of nostalgic for me because it wasn't my era. I was born 10 years after that. But I worked as a teenager downtown LA and I knew Angel Flight. and I've been on Angel's Flight, and I knew that area that he was talking about. I worked at at the Bunker Hill building, which at that time was something a little bit different, but so it kind of was nostalgic for me. I really enjoyed his style of writing. It just drew me in to his the way that it's like I felt like I could feel what he was feeling. You know, he went from this poverty stricken type of life to evolving into something that he wanted to be. So there was just so much, like you said, Camilla, uh, a waitress, and I felt like that relationship I felt was a love-hate relationship uh, on his part, and I kind of likened it to, you know, when you're in grammar school or in junior high, you're mean to girls because you like them. You're trying to like get their attention, and you're mean to them. And I kind of felt like he was acting that way with her, and but he really liked. At one point, I think I I sectioned it out where he tells her about her huaraches. You know, why are you wearing those huaraches? This and that. And then right after that he tells her, oh, you know, he apologizes to her and says that he treated her that way because he was bullied. So he's like bullying her, and then he says it was because I was bullied. So all that with that relationship. Anyway, I did like it, and there's just so much I think to discuss about all that. But one of the things that I didn't like at first, I didn't like at all. I didn't understand it. But after talking to you and reading it, that section again, I was confused about the earthquake, and I thought, why did he bring that into the story? It didn't, to me, it didn't fit. But I think, and tell me what you think, because I think now that he was writing all that so he could write, so he could like get ideas, because there was an earthquake back in 39 in reality, in real life. But I think he used that because didn't he go on to tell these friends of his or these acquaintances how he ran in and he saved the woman, and he all the blood and all, he was like exaggerating a lot of things that really didn't happen. So I think that that he used that earthquake to to inspire him to write, because then he started writing after that. What is your take on that?
Well, my only response, because you've asked me that before, and I would only say my impression are a couple thoughts. One, he is depicting LA, and part of LA is the anxiety that comes from the prospect of earthquakes. So if it was just that, to me, it was enough, because this is what the experience of Los Angeles is since I was a kid, since from when I could think, 4 years old, I have been hearing from everybody, the big one's coming. It's coming. And so to me, he had to do it. And that chapter about the earthquake and the absolute destruction, if it kind of cements the book as the LA story. To me, it was just that did it. But the other thought was that he is a lapsed Catholic who comes around again and says, I need to come back to God. Even though it wasn't overtly religious, he kind of his faith is shaken up, or it's stirred up again from that event, and it just reminds me of what a preacher that you and I know said that at one point he said during one of his sermons that earthquakes are the dress rehearsal for judgment. This idea that earthquakes shake people up. And so that's my interpretation of that chapter. I thought it was fantastic, and it was right on the heels of his sexual conquest that he didn't altogether feel good about.
Yeah, I think
Any thoughts?
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a combination of things. I think that's why it's a wonderful piece. I agree with you, Mom. At first, you're like, what's going on here? But then you see that what happens is, Arturo, the protagonist here, Bandini, is a young man, and I feel like right at that point, and Ruben, you just mentioned that he had this first um, uh,
Encounter.
encounter with a woman, and a sexual encounter, and you just saw things change with him. He no longer was that young boy anymore, and treating like you mentioned, Mom. He didn't know how to treat this Camila right, and really any woman. I felt like he was still kid. He didn't know how to even with his mother. He was lying to her and not really grown. He wasn't grown up. He was like a kid. Like on vacation, not really. But once I felt like with that earthquake happened, he's now a Los Angeles native. Now he is part of that community. He totally
Yeah.
that after that, his whole character I felt like changed. Meaning he was even saying things that what Ruben just shared about getting right with God. He was saying things like doing a rosary and praying and then even how he not that he treated Camila different, but it was a little different afterwards. You could see that he was in on it with her the whole way. Wherever that was going to take him with her, he was in on for the ride. He wasn't going to give up on that. So yeah, I think that was a very important piece, and I didn't even know if that was a real uh, situation or a real historical event. But looking back, I went and looked at it and I go, oh no, there was an earthquake there. So that was great. But no,
I think that was part of his growth because at the beginning he claims to be an atheist and then he's not, then he's crying out to God and praying and going to church and all this. So I think that was all part of
yeah,
his growth. Like you say, he was a young man. And that's how I saw it because um, he was reaching out, to know God or to, praying that he would become a writer and all this stuff um, that he wanted to do to further his writing skills. And he would pray to God and ask his mom to pray for him. And he was praying novenas, and it's just kind of hilarious. I really liked his character.
yeah. I was thinking, and Ruben, maybe you could share. There was a part of me, like 10% of me, thought that the Vera character was not even a real character. It was something in his mind because she kind of just showed up in his room one day, and then he goes to see her, and like Mom was sharing this whole earthquake situation, which was real, but some of the things he explained to some of his friends in Los Angeles seemed made up, right? It was blown up out of proportion. I'm like, maybe did he even have a sexual encounter? I was starting to question it. I'm like, then I thought that's wonderful because that's what books should do. They should start questioning things and try to put things together. And so I think there could be an argument that she was just his muse, like because after that he wrote the book and she was the center of that book, right? So just some thoughts.
Wait, Vera or Camilla?
Vera, the one
Okay,
that yeah, Vera,
Long Beach girl.
Long Beach girl, Long Beach.
Before I answer that, because I have a theory related to that.
Mhm.
So before I do, I just want to say something that I noticed as somebody just sitting back and reading the book, something that John Fante was doing every chapter of the way, and it really hit me this time at his skill as a writer. So
Mhm.
notice something that he never satisfied you as a reader. He never let you off the hook. And this is what I mean by that. He took you to a place where you wanted satisfaction and he didn't give it to you. So let's talk about, I get Hackmuth and his roommate because they have similar names.
Oh,
Hackmuth was his
Halfrick.
pub.
Halfrick
How,
is
how,
is the neighbor, and Helmuth is
Halfred,
the
okay.
author, editor.
Halfred owed him money and he was poor. Oh, he's gonna a lesser writer would have satisfied that. Oh, he's gonna pay back. He's gonna pay Bandini back, isn't he? You would think, but we know the answer to that because he was so poor. leaving that aside for a moment, every chapter brought us to a position, a place where we're like, okay, give Bandini a break. How about the Halfrick? How about Halfrick who didn't pay him back throughout the novel? Hey, let me take care of your milk. You want some milk? And then he finally gets Bandini finally gets his stomach filled with milk. Nope, nope. How about this? Yeah, and I don't want to give away, too much, but it didn't work out like that. He had an opportunity to drink milk through through his floor mates connection, but it didn't satisfy you as a reader. You wanted him to be okay. He meets Camilla and they clash in the beginning of their relationship. They clash, and finally she runs out to him and they meet, and you're like, okay, they're gonna get together. And Bandini says a very outrageous racist thing to her, just destroying that, at least at the moment, that relationship. That was at the end of the chapter, just like the milk chapter. He takes us to a place where we think it's going to be resolved, and he just slaps you in the face, pushes you away, and says, let's keep going. Let's go to the next chapter. You're like, what? But it keeps you so engaged. It's so good.
Yes, very engaged.
Did you experience the same frustration I did?
No, I did. And you know what? I kind of figured it out because I really feel like he's very, I don't want to say typical, but some of the good writers during the 30s, I'm thinking about Hemingway, Steinbeck, they kind of did some things like that at times. And so I felt like they were all in the same kind of group. I think you could put them all together because those are great writers of the 20th century. And I think you could put this Fonte in that group because of that style, like what you're sharing, Ruben. Because it wasn't they didn't always like
I,
get you and you're all
They
pleased
keep
at
you
the end of the
engaged.
chapter.
They
They
keep
kept you
you
engaged.
engaged.
I never feel that way with Hemingway. I always like Hemingway's novels, but I never feel that way during a novel. His short stories, yes, but not. I don't feel like this where I'm frustrated. He doesn't give me what I'm looking for. He takes me in a different direction, which I get what you're saying though. They're in the same era. Um,
Yeah.
Well,
so
even
I
Ruben, even right, because even Camilla's relationship with Sam
Hmm.
or Sammy,
Sammy.
that's that also leaves you hanging. That also leaves you frustrated. That relationship.
Yeah, you're not really sure
and
about it.
you want a typical resolution, but Fonte doesn't give that to you. You can never guess what's going to happen as a result. You're just where is he taking me here? Are they ever going to get together? What's happening? So reading it this time around, back to your
The
Vera
Vera
question,
question,
Jake.
right? Yeah.
Um, reading it this time around, I thought, whoa, this isn't about a, a man and a woman at all. This is a book about writing. This is just about writing. This is about a writer. And Sammy tells him, I actually before I tell you this scene with the oranges and the produce, where he says he runs into a guy who gives him produce. You like peaches? My teeth tore them to pulp, the juices skewering and whimpering at the bottom of my stomach because he's starving. It was so sad down there in my stomach. There was much weeping, and little gloomy clouds of gas pinched my heart. My plight, my plight drove me to the typewriter. And I think that sentence right there, my plight drove me to the typewriter, is the theme of the book. And this is Ruben reading it for the third or fourth time, so I might change my mind in the future. But I think he's commenting on the plight of the writer and that he shouldn't have Camilla because Camilla is what drives him, not literally Camilla. So to your question, Jake, does Vera exist? Not only do I possibly perhaps think she doesn't exist, Camilla might not even exist. It's
Yeah.
the thought of Camilla, the thought of a Vera pushes him forward. This is a very male writer thing, what I'm about to say, and I hate to say this with my mother in the video, but writers, one of the reasons why male writers write is the girl, the prospects, the image. It pushes you on. And I hate to tell you what the last page of the book is because I'm not the plot spoiler, but what an ending where he does something as he's looking for Camilla. He does something with his book, and he basically says, I'll I need to throw it away. I need to keep, in my interpretation, it's the Veras and especially the Camillas are there to push me forward in my writing. And Sammy, you were mentioning Sammy, Mom, is he actually reminds him of that. Don't deal with her. She's this, she's that. You don't need her. This is what you need. This is what brought me. Sammy found writing. Sammy was the prophet
That's right.
telling him, no, it's in front of you. You're writing. I don't like her. I like you. Sammy tells her, I don't like you. I like your friend. I like Arturo Pandini. So to me, this is about writing.
But you're right. All of that, I love what you're saying because it all makes sense. It glues it all together for me. What you're all that what you're saying. I loved it.
Yeah. It was just well done. I mean, you know, maybe it was that, Ruben, that you're not sure, at the end of each chapter, it keeps you hanging because it doesn't really satisfies you, and you go on to the next chapter. Maybe that was it. I think also though, as I was reading it, I don't read novels like this today. People don't write like that today. And so, I always hear things like, "Oh, there hasn't been a great book since World War II." I don't know, but I do know that I seem to enjoy the literature before World War II more than the literature after. But I don't know.
Well, uh, the
Oh,
introduction. Oh my
you can talk.
goodness.
You can talk about
Right?
it.
Charles
Uh, uh,
Bukowski. Oh my goodness.
Charles Bukowski. Jake, did you read the introduction?
I did.
Okay. What are you going to say, Mom, about the introduction? Because I do want to go back and talk about something related to the
Well,
writing, but
it's what Jacob
go
just
for it.
said about people don't write like this anymore. He was looking for meat. He was looking for something to to grab him, to woo him, and he was in a library looking everywhere for something, and then he found Charles Bukowski. If he refers to John Fante or to Arturo Bandini.
Well, he prefers
Uh,
to both. He brings out that it's Fante as the writer.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's an amazing introduction. It's just a man who just goes into the library, scours every book, looking, hungering for great writing
yeah,
until he finds Fante.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean, and
that introduction made me want to read it. It's like, oh yeah, I need to read this.
and I guess they became friends, right? Where did I read that at? Was that towards the end of the, or I'm not sure I read that, but they
Yeah,
became
it's the
friends
intro.
and
Yes, I
the
read
introduction.
that
Okay,
too.
yeah. So that seems great because their styles are very similar. Would you agree, Ruben, in a way?
Well, Bukowski wrote poems.
Okay,
So, in the sense that
realism.
When people talk about Bukowski, they talk about the realism, the gritty,
That's what I mean, realism. Yeah.
the but it's different because it's a poem. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. I get that in that sense. But the introduction is something I read every few years. I just reread just the introduction because it's so well written. The description of Fante, it's just great to read because here's a guy who's just sit back and just reading everything. And at one point he says, only the Russians have this capability who write with such power and realism and intensity. And he's clearly, kind of alluding to Dostoevsky, maybe Tolstoy. but I just want to say that at one point, so I mentioned that Bandini or Fante, I guess you could say, he he takes this character that doesn't that frustrates you by his choices, right? He's
Yeah,
frustrating. He shoots himself in the foot with Camilla, right? He has opportunities with her and he messes them up.
right.
And he destroys relationships and or at least he damages them. How about how he spends all this money and he wastes it? That's frustrating. It's very frustrating as the reader. Like, why are you wasting your money, Bandini?
But he did remember his money to send her
Later on,
money. Yeah.
later on, yes, yes, he does. How about that point where he gives the landlady 2 months advance rent and gives her a tip, and the landlady says no,
Oh,
and he re, and you're saying just take the money back, right? Take that
yes.
money. And he says no. And she's chasing him with the money. That is frustrating, but it's great writing. It keeps you it keeps you there. I will point out one moment for me where Bandini does the right thing, where you're thinking, Bandini, don't do this. Don't do this to me. And Bandini doesn't do it. He does the right thing. Want me to read it? Want me to share it?
Please,
Yes.
please.
He reads Sammy's work
Oh yeah.
and he wants to destroy it, but he doesn't. Because back to what this is about, he knows what it's like to be a writer and he does not want to be unfair to Sammy. I stood at the mailbox, my head against it, and grieved for Sammy, and for myself,
Yes.
and for all the living and the dead. Forgive me, Sammy, forgive a fool. I walked back to my room and spent 3 hours writing the best criticism of his work I could possibly write. I didn't say that this was wrong or that was wrong. I kept saying, in my opinion, this would be better if, and so forth, and so forth.
I really love that, Ruben. I love that part very much. Um, and it made me think of the milk, that he had a conscience. He didn't jump on that right away. He kept saying no, 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 no until his stomach was growling so bad. But yes, I love that he did that with Sammy. That was a highlight. Yeah, it was a big highlight.
I actually thought he was going to I thought he was going to come through. I thought he was going to throw it away, like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that after all. Because I said, how could he do that to this guy? You know, because he really hasn't done anything bad to him in a way. He could beat him up, and when he was with them in the alley, or when they were getting to the car scene. But he didn't do that. So I thought, why would he do such a mean thing? And then when he came through, actually one of the times when he did come through, and I go, oh, that was fulfilling when he and that didn't often happen, but that was towards the end of the book when that happened, right? So that was fulfilling for sure.
Another part that I really like, the little dog laughed. How proud he was. He was so proud of that
Yeah.
article. He just
I felt like it was a little uncomfortable though. I felt like it was too like I mean I know people like that when they're just so like they just want you to love what they love. Have you ever seen somebody who loves a movie and they want you to love it just like they love that movie? And you're
yes, it
like,
was so
well,
real.
not
It
that
was so
great.
real
But
because
right.
he's such a young writer and it was exciting and he was so proud of it.
And to have somebody
Like a
else,
little boy, so
yeah.
young.
Right. And have somebody else like it, you're like, oh, someone likes my work.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you feel that way when someone likes your comedy. Like I really liked you. I mean, all the other comedians were great, but you're my favorite, or whatever. Because you feel like, oh wow, they noticed me. Kind of cool.
Yes, this idea is kind of brought out in another later chapter, chapter 16, where um, he talks about the good days. The good days. What are the good days? The fat days, page upon page of manuscript, prosperous days, something to say, the story of Vera Rivkin, and the pages mounted, and I was happy. It's something about the writer where everything else could go wrong, But if the writing is there, everything else works. And that's why it really came out this time, this idea. And that girl, that teenager who worshiped her and cried because it's this idea too of sometimes people don't understand. Sometimes it's the humble people that can read and understand good writing. And um, sometimes people, even the critics don't get it. They don't understand what good writing is at first. It's some of the writing needs to take time, but this girl, this teenager understood it. She said, "This is great." And then of course, Bandini, being Bandini, destroys the situation by overly praising her. But this is um, such a writer's moment.
For sure. And throughout the book though, I mean, you there's little nuggets, little pieces like that where you go, oh, that was a nice thing that happened, or it's believable. You see that, and it's a believable situation. Not only is it a believable city because we live in the city. I mean, Ruben, I think you live close to some of the streets that are even talked about in the book, right? But so when you feel like this is like reality and it could have happened, even though like we mentioned or you mentioned, Ruben, that maybe a lot of this what didn't happen, but it was just being a writer. But the whole idea of it possibly happening makes it kind of fun. It's like, oh wow, this is great. I like to be in this world. This is a kind of a cool world that he's in, and yeah.
It was a good one, Ruben, a very good suggestion. I think I want to have my book club see this podcast when we get together
Oh,
to
okay,
discuss
nice.
this book. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, that'd
Thank
be
you.
fun. But you know what, Mom? I think there's a movie. I think there's a movie to it too, right, Ruben?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I
Is
haven't seen
there?
it. I think
Oh,
it's
I'm gonna
with
look it up.
Let's review it for our next episode. We'll review the movie. Stars Colin Farrell, Salma Hayek, and
Oh,
but it's one of these things that like John Fante is not a household name, but those who know kind of thing. Like once you discover him, he's just unforgettable. Um,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we got to do it. We got to
truly
talk about
unforgettable.
one of the great novels, American novels of our day. And thank you, Mother, for joining us.
Thank
Yes,
you for
Mom.
having me. I love doing this with you guys. Two of my favorite people in the whole wide world.
And one of them is your
We
favorite,
won't, we won't tell Chris.
right?
Well, he's another one of my favorites.
Very cool.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We hope you read the book and
Yes.
let us know what you think. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.